Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming, joining this session, 4 Keys to Teamwork and Collaboration. The evening agenda is really full, so I'd like to get started. And in introducing our presenters, there is so much to say in so little time. So let me begin, if I may. Dr. Yabome Gilpin-Jackson is a multi-award winning scholar, practitioner in human and organization development, with research awards and professional recognitions in Canada, the UK, and the US, including the prestigious Harry Jerome Award given in recognition of Black Canadian achievements and contributions. She's an executive leader, consultant, and educator in leadership, organization development, and transformative learning in academia and across the private, public, and not-profit sectors. Dr. Gilpin-Jackson holds a PhD in human development from Fielding Graduate University, where she is an Institute for Social Innovation Scholar. She's an adjunct seasonal faculty at Simon Fraser, Concordia, and elsewhere. And recently she was appointed the first Vice President, People, Equity, and Inclusion for Simon Fraser University. In addition to her groundbreaking book on transformation after trauma, The Power of Resonance, she has also authored peer-reviewed journals and book chapters, is author of Identities and Ancestries, short story collections about global African experiences, and lead editor of the We Will Lead Africa book series. I'd like to take another moment to read an excerpt from her most recent book, Transformation After Trauma, The Power of Resonance. Resonance gives us the ability to return to our deepest memories that remind us of our individual and shared humanity, unleashing the desire to take actions to create a better world for all. It shows that transformation, thriving, and positive impact on others in society are still possible in spite of traumatic impacts. You see, she says, especially in these situations, unlocking resonance creates access to transformation. Resonance gives us pause to unlock what matters most in the midst of the most traumatic circumstances. It takes us one step further to access our deep soul connections to the why behind what matters. Welcome, Yabome. And now for Fred Miller. Again, a lot to say, so little time. Fred Miller is CEO and lead strategist of the Khalil Jameson Consulting Group, which was named one of Consulting Magazine's 7 Small Jewels. He is a pioneering change agent and thought leader in the field of OD. He is cited as a forerunner of corporate change in the age of heretics. Fred, like Yabome, has way too many awards to be named in such a brief introduction. As one example, he has been named as one of the 40 pioneers of diversity by Profiles in Diversity Journal. He is author of more than 100 articles in professional journals. Fred was managing editor of the classic The Promise of Diversity and co-authored with Judith Katz the Inclusion Breakthrough, Unleashing the Real Power of Diversity. Fred was the first person to serve on all 3 boards of the most prestigious organizations in his field, the Association for Talent Development, formerly ASTD, the OD Network, and NTL. I want to also read something that Fred wrote after that world churning day, May 25th, 2020. When I can't take another step, I think of the power of us. Someone handcuffs you and puts their knee on your throat and you die. Someone thinks your apartment is their apartment and kills you, is driving their car and is stopped and killed, is playing with a toy gun and is killed. is jogging in the middle of the street unarmed and is killed. I am so tired. When I am tired, when I have said the same statement that I've said hundreds and hundreds of times in my 48 years of doing this work, when I miss my family and friends, when I wonder, does it really matter? Do I really matter? Does anyone really care? When I look at the TV and see the underbelly of the US and other places around the world, when I feel like an old black man trying to swim up Niagara Falls, when I just feel like an old man, when I think I can't take another step, I think of you. I think of all the people I've met and worked with through the years, people who care, who want to make a difference, who are making a difference. And that thought, that very thought, that one thought gives me strength, courage, a vision, a feeling of love. Welcome, Fred. Welcome all. And I'll turn this over. Thank you for being here.
Wow. Jim, when you read that, it, like tears start forming in my eyes. It's like, it's not about me hearing me. It's about me hearing about life and being reminded of the life that many of us have had to live. So I want to thank you for doing that. At the same time, it's like, Jim, I got to do a presentation. So hello, everybody. Glad you're here. Thanks for joining us. We'll say a little bit more about kind of who we are and what we're doing, and then we will continue with our presentation. But thank you, Jim. Thank you, Marilyn. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. It's a pleasure to be associated with this endeavor. As we'll talk about at the end, we're planning on doing some public workshops once COVID can move itself a little bit to the side of the street, and having people face-to-face kind of get together and interact. So as Jim said, Fred Miller with the Khalil James Consulting Group. We're the oldest OD firm and the oldest diversity and inclusion firm. We've been around for 50 years. We're based in Troy, New York, across the river from Albany, New York in the United States. And there are about 20 consultants and about 10 of us who work out of this office in Troy, which is our administrative headquarters. It's a delight and joy to do this work. I love the work that I do. That's why I'm not retiring. I love the work that I do. And this is a moment in history for change. Why would a change agent retire in a moment for history for change? So it doesn't make sense right now for me to be thinking about retirement. It's thinking about how can we make change and how we can take this chance to celebrate the world being a better place for everyone. So thank you for joining us tonight. Really appreciate it. And Yabome, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. Thank you also, Jim. Made me wonder, did I actually write that? Thank you for bringing that context forward. Like Fred, humbled and honored to be here. It's a privilege to do this work in the world, to do this work with all of you. Good to see some familiar faces here from across Canada and otherwise. And to be in these conversations with you. I continue to live and work on the traditional, unceded, and Indigenous territories of the First Nation Canadians peoples as we gather virtually. I know those of us in Canada gather in many different First Nations territories. Myself joining you today from the Coquitlam territories, and reminded in this context, like Fred said, that there's a lot to do in the world. In addition to May 25th, last May here in Canada, we had a reckoning with the discovery of unmarked graves of Indigenous children. And all of that for me, past the pain and the trauma, is a reminder that for such a time as this, we're here to do what we can. Can't be martyrs, can't save the world, but we're here to do what we can for such a time as this. And that's my commitment to this work. And so I continue to work as an executive leader in public sector and education spaces. I continue to teach, to research, to speak, and I'm privileged to work with Fred, and was privileged to do some work with both him and members of his firm, including Judith Katz, mentioned as his co-author, and also his partner in this work for many, many years, retired. And Judith, I know you're here. I saw you on my screen earlier, but you've disappeared. So it's a privilege and honor to have been part of this work with you both and ongoing in many different ways. So that's me, leadership roles, consult as I can, when I can, and continuing to do this work publicly through speaking, writing, and research and teaching. For those of you that have been in my classrooms, I see you as well. So welcome here. Looking forward to this time. Back over to you. I think Veronica's here and is going to say something before we continue.
Hi, everyone. My name is Veronique. I am a client partner with the Cleo Jameson Consulting Group. I'm here to support Fred and Yabome as they present this topic today. If you have any questions throughout the session, please feel free to send me a message. Otherwise, like we said, we will send a recording afterwards. So if you have to leave at any point, we'll be sure to send it your way. And thank you so much for joining us.
So again, thank you. We can go to the slides. Again, thank you. I appreciate everyone being here. The title of this webinar is 4 Keys for Teamwork and Collaboration. It comes out of a book that Judith Katz and I wrote about opening doors and talking about these 4 keys. And again, this is part of the series of webinars, Being Your Best Self webinar series. This is webinar number 2. There'll be another one coming up shortly. And so what are those keys for teamwork and collaboration? What makes it work? What's going to help make it work the best? So next slide. So overview of our time together, just short and sweet. 4 key actions for higher performance and inclusion. These are actions that we have found and developed through the years make a big difference in the quality of the interaction and helps people learn the common language necessary for high performance. So we'll share the concepts. We'll have you do a couple self-assessments. So you need to have something to write with or use your computer in some way, but we're going to ask you to do some scoring of yourself around some concepts. And then learning always from each other. And so we'll be having you to make some comments and share some things. And we know we don't have a lot of time, so we'll be moving ourselves fast.
All right. So it's really important to us to make sure that we have connection before content and to bring everyone grounded into the space of our conversation, remind us why we're here. Too often we speed through life, and part of the work we do in developing the organizational and personal self and in the series of this workshop is sort of remind all of us to ground in connecting to ourselves and to each other. And so we're going to send you to a really quick 6-minute breakout conversation in small groups to just share more of yourself in terms of your name, your organization, and one thing that is important to you when you interact with others. As we talk about these concepts of the keys to teamwork and collaboration. So when you interact with others, what's one thing that's important to you? And be prepared to share your answers from question 3 when you come back from the chat. Just be prepared to do that personally. We'll ask for some headlines. But for now, we're going to send you out to your breakout group. It will be quick. It will be 6 minutes. So please just note the time and quickly allow each other to go around and share. Veronique, over to you.
Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. When you get a chance, put in chat your answers to question 3, one thing that is important to you when you interact with others. Just type it right in chat. Okay, let's just hear from, let's just do 3 people. 3 people, what are your answers to that? What's important to you when you interact with others? Just unmute yourself and talk.
Hi, I'm Heather. I said understanding, and I had a really fun group.
We made sure everybody had a fun. 2 more people, 2 more comments. What's important to you?
Hi, Fred. It's Monica.
Hi, Monica.
Listening to other street corners and viewpoints. It's very important to get a whole picture versus just what you bring to the table.
Nice. Thank you. One more quickly. One thing important to you when you interact with others?
You know, a feeling of connection. And I think a lot of people said a feeling of mutual understanding. Definitely that connection is really key for me.
Nice, thank you. Thank you, and for everybody, make sure if you haven't already, make sure you put your answers in chat. So we want to talk about some conscious actions for inclusion, but I think it's conscious actions for high performance. It's conscious actions for us to engage and partner with others. If you want to have a high performing organization, you got to have some common language. We often have common language around the technology we do, the work we do, but we often don't have common language around our interactions with others. And so Judith Katz and I, when we were thinking about this book, we're really thinking about what's some of the common language that we have seen our clients utilizing that really is critical for them to be able to be high performing. Every profession has their common language, but we as human beings, we tend to use language that maybe we learned as a kid, and I got one code and you have another code, and we don't have common language around anything. And so this is an attempt to get us some common language for our interaction, so that you know, if I use that common language, you know that I'm supporting you, that you know I see you as important, that I'm using language to really let you know that I care and I want to connect and I want to collaborate, that I'm here to build something with you. And so I have language to help us build together. And I want to be learning and growing myself individually, and I want us to be learning and growing as a team. That the common language says, let's be a we and not just I's in this interaction. And it's critical for diversity. It's critical for bringing our differences together and have those differences be an asset for us and help us to even better work together. And we need common language for that. So the first key is lean into discomfort. Be willing to challenge self and others. Have the critical conversations we need to have. Be willing to make mistakes, take responsibility, and learn from them. Lean into discomfort. I know US TV a lot. I don't know Canadian TV as well, but I hunch it's somewhat similar. Our TV, it's all about take this to help me to not feel pain. Take this to feel better. Watch out for this. Be careful about this. It's all about make sure that you are protected and safe and there's no dangers around you. And yet we all know that's not true for human beings, that human beings, we're going to trip, we're going to fall sometimes. Nobody learns how to ride a bicycle without falling. So falling is part of it. And I know there's a whole generation of children that we've tried to have, don't fall, let's put a bubble wrap around you and make sure you don't have, you know, the spills and slight hurts that come in life. But we also know that those hurts are what helps us be clear about things. You learn how to ride a bike by falling, and then you start figuring things out. That's true about a lot of things. So how do we allow ourselves to lean into discomfort? When lots of the messages we get are be comfortable, be comfortable, be comfortable. And client after client, when we get down to really getting clear about what's holding them back, the avoidance of conflict. That people want to stay comfortable. Oh, you made that person uncomfortable. You should go apologize to them. You made that person uncomfortable. You should have never done that. We're not talking about physical harm to somebody. We're not talking about being abusive to somebody. But if we're high-performing teams, people who invent, people who create, have to mix it up. And I'm not going to always see it the same way as somebody else. And I may have some discomfort about seeing something different than them and struggle through that, and then we get to a breakthrough. And so for us, leaning into discomfort is a key to a norm that's critical for human beings to be their best and for teams to be their best. To be able to have that discomfort and work through it allows for better. Our founder, Khalil, used to talk about somewhere along the line, conflict got a name that it did not deserve, because everybody sees conflict as bad. But for many of us, we've had conflict with somebody and we've worked it through and they become our best friend. Sometimes we even marry that person. So conflict in itself is not bad. Not working into resolution is problematic. And so how do we learn how to have discomfort, how conflict, have those engagements, knowing that if we're going to bring a diverse group of people together, and my daughter had best friends were identical twins. Identical twins are not identical. So even identical twins have diversity. So as you bring a group of people who are together, who are diverse, how do we have some norms and ways of operating, and knowing that we're going to mix it up, and that mixing it up is going to make us better than a team that's all monocultural. So that's the first key, is about leaning into discomfort. And now we have 3 questions we want to ask you. So have something to write with or use your computer. To what degree do you lean into discomfort? Challenge others, challenge self, appropriately add your voice as you're interacting. So what degree do you lean into discomfort? 0 is low, not at all, 10 is high. I respond well when others lean into discomfort with me. So how do you do when other people lean into discomfort with you? And let's just look at the 3rd question, Vera. And then when I lean into this, I lean into discomfort of addressing conflict to its resolution. So I lean into discomfort of addressing conflict to its resolution. So what do you do? Do you address conflict to its resolution? What degree do you lean into discomfort? So we're going to have you do stamps and actually stamp right onto the slide. Vera, you want to talk about that?
Absolutely. So I just put in the chat a simple direction. At the top of your screen, you should see view options. You can then click the option annotate. And then if you hover over one of the stamps, you can select a stamp and put wherever you feel most represents how you feel about the questions.
And Vera, just say one more time how you do it.
Yeah, at the top of the screen, you'll see view options, and you can select annotate, and then you can pick a stamp. So you can draw as well, or you can select a stamp.
Okay, another second for whoever hasn't annotated yet. Quite a spread, but that 8, 7-ish for the first one, and 8, 7, 6 for the second is where bulk of people, but there's a spread. Okay, can we go to the next one, Vera? Okay, another second. Okay, it's even more of a spread. Okay, so we're gonna talk about one more of the keys, and then we're gonna give you a chance to go to some small groups and talk about your answers, and also what you see as you think about us as a group of human beings and where we are around that.
So we're going to talk a bit more now about listening before we go back into group conversation. This is the second key that changes everything in teamwork and collaboration. And again, as Fred has characterized, when you have a diverse group of people, which is really when you bring anybody together, how do you move forward together? How do you enact on shared purpose? And the second key is listening. But listening in a particular way, listening as an ally. What this does not look like is listening to confirm my own point of view or my own bias. It does not look like listening with judgment in the forefront so that I'm only evaluating what I am hearing from the other person against my own points of views and frames of reference. And there are as many points of views and frames of reference as there are people on the planet that exist in unique and different contexts. So I'm hearing some feedback. I'm not sure if it's just me. We might need to put someone on mute. Okay. And so, and again, just checking for that feedback that I'm getting. So again, it's what it is not like is listening only to talk back. Listening only to talk back and provide a response that really just validates my own opinion. Listening as an ally says that I'm listening to engage in conversation. I'm listening to learn. Now we're going to build on this by the time we get to the fourth key. So I'll just hold that aside for a moment. But fundamentally, the skill of listening is easier said than done. A lot of people in a lot of contexts will say, you know, we just need to listen. But it is listening in a way that says, I'm willing to learn, I'm willing to engage, even when I disagree, even when I have a different perspective, even when I don't fully understand, but I'm leaning in to that discomfort to deeply listen so that I can understand. We know that we're listening as an ally and we're listening at this level when we can repeat back and we can characterize the other person's perspective and they fully agree with us that what we're saying aligns with what they've said to us. So we're not just hearing, we're listening. And the other thing is listening to the context, not just listening to the words, but listening to the context, listening and seeing the body language, listening and seeing the cues that call us to probe deeper. So again, we'll build on this later, but the idea of listening as an ally is going beyond our own self-judgments and going beyond our own perspectives to really hear other people. So we have a couple of self-assessment questions as well. If you go here, I listen as an ally. How much do you listen to the context? I see someone's comment to what's not being said, absolutely. And how much do you listen so that you lean into the other person's perspective instead of just repeating your own? So in the first question, I listen as an ally. Same thing if you can use the annotation tool and just annotate so we get a sense of the room in terms of how well we each believe we do this. How well do we believe we listen as an ally? Again, this is listening in a way that it's not about me, it's about us and our collective views here. The second one, I see people have started annotating as well. Others would say, I listen as an ally. Yeah. I'm actually going to push you to think about the personal people in your life in particular. Would they say you listen as an ally?
Right.
Fred?
And now I was just going to say, and not on your perfect day, not when you're being your absolute best self, but on your normal day.
Yes. You mean on the day that you're being human? On a regular day when you're just being human.
Nice. Nice.
How much do you listen? How much would others say you listen? My children are my voice of conscience. And it's getting worse for me the more they get older and understand what I do in the world. Can't get away with much these days.
So the second one, y'all could take a homework assignment and say, I'm going to ask 2 people I know in my life how well they think I listen as an ally on a 0 to 10. And the ally, as Yabome said, is really critical as an ally. Not just listen, but listen as a partner, somebody who's there, fully there to be with them and learn from them. Doesn't mean you have to agree, but you're engaging in the listening process so that they feel fully heard and partnered with.
Yeah. And we're going to build on that. You don't have to agree piece. But this is fundamentally about listening as an ally. So you can see a bit of a spread here, but centering again around that 6, 7, 8. I would expect of this room that we've practiced this quite a bit, because this is not about being competent in this, it's about being practiced. I caught myself today not listening as an ally in a meeting and having to call myself back to center and be present in that conversation. So somewhere in 6, 7 on average, and some of us acknowledging as well, yeah, you know what, I don't do this well. All right, let's go one next. So shall we have some breakout conversations? Some breakout conversations on these pieces that we've introduced, these first keys, right? There are 4. We've started with the 2, lean into discomfort and listening as an ally. In your breakout groups, it will be the same groups that you were in earlier, just for expediency here. Would your interactions at work and in life be better if you move closer to a 10 in terms of leaning into discomfort and listening as an ally? And what are some actions you can take to enhance your practice of these behaviors? So we're having you think through that and muscle through that a bit. We're here to learn collectively, and you'll hear from each other, and that will spark some things. We're not telling you what you need to do. We're asking what actions you think you can take to enhance your practice of these behaviors. So we'll go to breakout, and we'll see you back in 6 minutes. Welcome back, everyone.
Welcome back.
All right, I think a few still coming back, so I'll give it a couple seconds here.
Yeah. Welcome back.
Awesome.
Great.
So,
welcome back.
Yeah, I think we probably have everybody back now. All right, so let's see what came out of that 6 minutes for you. In particular, the second question, what are some actions you can take to enhance your practice of these behaviors? Remember, we're talking both lean into discomfort and listen as an ally, so go wherever you'd like to go for yourself. I'm going to open the mic and hear from a couple of people. So we'll look for hands, or please come on the mic and share what came up for you in that conversation. Processing the first 2 keys. What actions?
Hi, Fabienne.
Yes, go ahead.
So I don't hesitate to lean in to discomfort, like to resolve issues, but often I'm told that I feel like I'm controlling, or that I'm trying to take control, but my intent is to just get it resolved, and whoever needs to do what, but maybe I need to listen more so that I understand better.
And so you're sitting with that reflection and what it might look like to listen more. So it's a good question around what does space look like in order to listen as an ally. Listen in a way that positions you where the other party in partnership with you feels heard. Maybe that's the question. I don't think being willing to lean into discomfort and sharing voice is the issue. It's oftentimes is the other person being heard? Because remember, this is the we. This is about partnership. Again, we'll say more about that on the 4th key. So let's hear some more voices. Others.
I was just going to
Fred?
add, and sometimes it's how long you talk when you come in. How long I talk when I come in. If somebody's made a comment and I want to connect with them, or they made a comment, even if I disagree, but if they have kind of the floor, then I want to make my comment shorter versus longer. Because the longer that I talk, the more it looks like I'm trying to take away, or I'm trying to defend, or I'm trying to convince, versus offer another point of view. So sometimes the length of which I bring my comments impacts how people see me as listening.
I can chime in. I know Debbie Ann, she is controlling, so it was a great question. It's hard for me to answer that question without circling back to a comment you made earlier, Fred, to say, what would your wife say, or what would your partner say? Like, so yeah, I'm throwing up 8s and 7s, but as soon as you said that, I went, oh no, she'd say like 4 or 5, right? So it is a situational piece. So, and it made me realize the gap between why I can't be consistent is my own discomfort. So I can't be an ally if there's a gap in between the circumstances, right? So that's a good learning opportunity for me. And training and learning is really the best way. I did a coaching certification at Concordia, and I had my skills served up to me in a very humble basket. And I was just being told, hey, you're a detective. You're not working with people here. You're telling them. You're leading them. And it was really an eye opener, right? And I'm still that way because I'm naturally codependent. I want to help people. and at the end of the day, the learning process is to step back. Thanks.
What great reflections.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you for sharing those. Yeah. Thank you. Who else would like to share? Share out loud. Amazing.
This isn't my answer, but I really liked it. And it was being self-aware first.
Okay.
And I like that. I thought that was a really good point.
Yeah. Say a bit more. What about that really resonated for you?
Well, it resonated with me because when you're self-aware, you stop yourself maybe from having those habits that you are annoying or block another person.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of good because then you can recognize that in someone else and you can have a little empathy for them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Fantastic. Thank you.
And part of the question is, when did I become not self-aware? Which interactions do I engage with where I lose my self-awareness? And what's happening with me at that moment in time that makes me lose that? So I'm not being my best self. And tracking that might give some clues about how I might be able to do that different.
Yeah. Yeah. And the thing I like to say about self-awareness also is it's a practice, right? Again, I said this morning I court myself. And I had fallen out of self-awareness, but calling that back is why I court myself in terms of, oh, okay, here I am not listening as an ally. And so remember, it's a practice, right? It's like bouncing that ball. You want to be the best at basketball, you have to keep bouncing it. And so, yeah, just hold that thought. Who else would like to share? Andrea, did I see you wave your hand? No? Feel free to come on the mic, put your hand up or come on. Yeah.
But we were talking about that in our room, though, that it's as much remembering that, it's the remembering that that's your intention, right? So, we were talking about how we can fall out of listening because we're feeling vulnerable or we're not feeling like we want to leave, but to remember that that's good. Otherwise, the habit is to not. The habit is to not listen, or the habit is to move to comfort, right? To lead to, peacemaking or, wallpapering it over. So it's just that reminder that that's what the direction we want to go in.
Exactly. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much. Reinforces that point. Linda, I see your hand.
Hi. I was wondering if I could be vulnerable here. So honestly, I've taken on a new job as a project manager in the last 6 months. And I cannot believe how many times there are so many uncomfortable conversations I need to have. We're behind schedule, we're over budget, and it's constant, it's wearing every day to the point that I almost want to change careers and just be a barista. And I'm not kidding. I am not kidding. I almost want to take a job where I'm just an individual contributor. I don't manage anybody and I just do my job. I don't know what to do because, and I'm even fine with taking half the pay now because this whole stress about, and I don't think I'm exaggerating. It's constantly every day an uncomfortable conversation. Someone on the team, why are you late? Why is this not, why is this feature not being done on time? You said you would deliver it like 3 days ago, and I don't know what to do anymore. Is there a point where maybe I'm just simply not skilled at this and I should just give up and do something else? That's what I'm coming to point with now at this late stage in my career. And I'm new to project management, honestly, because before I used to be the boss, like I used to be a director. So it was clear clear on the hierarchy. It was not like flat. It was like, hey, I'm the director. Anybody that reports to me, what I say generally goes. So that's it.
Yeah. And also a role in which potentially also had a lot of, I would imagine, uncomfortable conversations. So I wonder how you might use these keys and what it is about that context and the partnership you have or don't have that might be impacting your experience, and how you can use, let's get to the end of the 4 keys, thinking about, are these keys present in your context? And if they're not, potentially that might be the experience that you're having. Fred?
I was just going to say, the fact that you're struggling means that you're a good leader. You should stay there.
You're working it.
That you're a good leader should stay there, because you're being self-aware of what's going on. You're going to learn, you're going to grow, you're going to develop, and you'll have this as a base for understanding how you want to be different than some of the struggle you're in now. So I worry more about the person who thinks they're perfect and they're doing it all right. I like more the person who says, I got to do this better, or there's a way of doing it, or I got to learn, or I got to bring the team together and let them know what I'm struggling with, which is another option around this. So kind of help there be a collective thing. And that speaks to all these behaviors. If you talk about, you're going to lean into discomfort, or you're going to listen as an ally, use that language. Say to the group, I'm going to practice listening as an ally. Or you could say to somebody, I need you to listen as an ally. Sometimes I come into the office in the morning and I'm in grumpy mode, and somebody may have something important to say to me. And they may say, Fred, I need you to listen to me as an ally when I have this conversation with you. If I'm really, really grumpy, I'll say, okay, but I can't do it right now because I'm in grumpy world. But when I'm able to, I can say, yes, let me sit down, let me get focused, let me be here for you as an ally in the conversation. So for the technical stuff, we have common language. For this human interaction stuff, we don't always have it. This is providing some common language so that you're with a group and you can say, I need people to listen as an ally. I need you to listen as an ally. We were with a group in England, and it was a plant manager, and somebody reported to him. The person reported saying, I'm going to lean into some discomfort. We'll talk some more about that. I'm going to lean into some discomfort. And the leader said, I don't need you to lead in, to tell me you're going to lean into discomfort. The person said, no, I need to do it for me. Sometimes saying, I'm going to listen as an ally. Sometimes saying what I'm going to do helps me get positioned to do it and being able to do it. So I would say to all of you, experiment with this behavior and see how you can use it. But by saying it, because if you say to me, I'm going to lean into discomfort, I'm on notice that what you're getting ready to do is harder than what you normally do. Because if you don't tell me and you just do it, I might not realize it's hard because I don't think it's hard. So I step on you, metaphorically, because I'm not giving you the space, knowing that you are leaning into discomfort. But if you say, hey, I'm leaning into discomfort, then I know I need to be quiet, I need to be here for you, and I need to not step on you as you're doing this. So the language helps not only create bonding and have people know you're with them, but it also creates some processes that allows for people to explore.
And I think the nugget here, Fred said something important, lean into discomfort for me. So in this example you gave us, Linda, sounds like you're leaning into discomfort for other people and on behalf of other people. How can you lean into this, the discomfort of the conversation, of the experience you're having that's not serving you right now, and be explicit about, I'm going to lean into an uncomfortable conversation and the discomfort of the experience I'm having on this team, and I need you to listen as an ally, right? And in this case, tell people what that means. Let's say, hey, I'm going to lean into the discomfort of the experience I'm having as the project manager, and I need you to listen as an ally. I'm going to encourage you, we're going to move to the other 2 keys, is think about the other 2 keys in that way as well. And in terms of what they offer you in response to that question. So Fred?
Thank you.
Yeah, I love that response, because I think it also is training them how to be and how to interact, and when they're struggling with something, what they should do. So it's great modeling, it's great leadership. So we're going to move to the 3rd key, which is state your intent and your intensity. I was working with Cummins Engine Company in Indiana, in the United States. And I was working with, let's hold the slide for a minute. and I was working with a leader, Bob. And Bob wanted me to go talk to his people and see what feedback they had for him. And I went to talk to his people, and I came back and said, Bob, they like you a lot. But you do this thing, Bob. They start a project, and then you come out of your office and you say, hey, did you think of this on that project? If you move it to the front, to the back about that, how about green on that project? Did you call somebody in China or Japan on that project? And he goes to the water cooler, and everybody's changing their projects. And he says, I don't mean for them to change their projects. I said, but what I realized, when a leader speaks, people hear it as a go-do. They don't hear it as, here's an idea. We're with a client once, and they're walking through a manufacturing plant. And one of the leaders said, I wonder how many valves there are in this plant. True story. A team stayed up all night counting the valves. So when leaders speak, people hear it as this is what the leader wants, or this is what will please the leader. And so we have leaders saying, oh, maybe if I'm in a meeting, I shouldn't speak at the beginning, because if I speak at the beginning, everybody's going to agree with me. Then the leader says, I'll speak at the end. They speak at the end, and people say, if you knew the answer, why did you wait all this time and waste this time? So it's like, where's the perfect spot for the leader to speak? Where is it when a leader can talk and people are not hearing it as, this is what I want, this is how you please me? And we can look at the chart. So I came up with this chart, way of looking at of leaders speaking, that allows, and everybody's just not leaders, that allows people to understand their intent and their intensity. So sometimes something is just a notion. It's a notion, it's an idle thought, it's a shower thought, it's riding the car, it's on the escalator. I'm not committed to it, but I had a thought. I want to share the thought. So it's a notion. So I have this notion, and people can take it or leave it and do nothing with it, and I'm okay. Doesn't matter to me. It's a notion. Then there's a stake. A stake is like you go camping and you put a stake in the ground. I have a little stronger position around that. It's not just a notion, it's a little more. I got a little commitment to this spot. I don't want to live at this campsite the rest of my life, but I have a commitment to it right now. And the challenge around that is, if I put a stake in the ground, I got to be willing to move it, and I got to be okay with that. But it's also telling people, I have some commitment to this. And so I'm not just going to, I want you to hear it. So putting a stake in the ground is a way of saying I have a commitment, but I got to be willing and able to move it when I get more knowledge and more information. Then there's a boulder, a big rock. This is when I have a position. It's a boulder, means I am very committed to this. As one of my clients once said, if I have a boulder, bring a posse, don't come by yourself. So if I have a boulder, bring a lot of information or bring people with you. But if you say, well, I kind of see it differently, no. You got to have a lot more than that to move a boulder. And then the fourth one is a tombstone over my dead body. It's like, this is a fact. We get tombstones all the time in organizations. You get them from government regulations. You get organizational safety regulations. You get something that we're going to have to do. We are moving to a new location, and this is a tombstone. We're moving. So a tombstone is those things that happen in organizational life. The thing that often happens with tombstones is people don't say it's a tombstone, and then people think they're going to debate about it. And then people are debating about something that's a tombstone that's not going to change. So saying it's a tombstone brings clarity to it. On a tombstone, the real opportunity is how we're going to do it, not if you're going to do it. And if we can get clear about the how, that's fine. But let's not argue about the intensity of it and that it's not going to move. So these are 4 ways of communicating. I use them in our firm and in my emails, and I'll say this is a notion, because emails, after you exchange with somebody twice, sounds like everything's a tombstone. So I got to put language in my emails to let people know. And being a leader, it's a tendency for me to say something with some passion, because if I'm going to say something, I'm going to give some passion to it. But if I don't qualify it by, this is a stake, this is a notion, maybe this is a boulder, then people hear everything as a tombstone and the way it's got to be. So we have clients on their emails who put down the bottom, they have those 4 symbols, and they circle the one that this is a notion, this is a stake, this is so that people know what it is, so that we can expedite the communication process. And I know when there's an opportunity, and again, I talked about this from a leader, but it's colleague to colleague. It's a group discussion happening, and somebody say, hey, this is a real boulder for me around this particular topic. Okay, let me step back and really hear what they want to say, and then see if there's anything that I have that makes sense to give them a different point of view. So we have our clients all the time using this. We have them have this poster hanging up in their conference rooms, and people using this language because it really expedites the interaction and helps people get really clear about what their intent is. And sometimes other people, I may say something that I want, and people say, is that a notion, stake, tombstone, or boulder? And I haven't gotten clear in my own mind about it. And by them asking me that, it helps me get clear. We had a client once that talked in metaphors. So he was a senior leader, president of a company, but he talked in metaphor. And so he would talk in metaphor, and everybody in the team would understand the metaphor differently, and they all go out and do different things. And they were afraid of him, so nobody would say to him, what you said, I don't understand, or what you said didn't make any sense. Or they could have said, is that a notion or a stake? What is that you just gave us? So this is a tool that people have used a lot and found helpful. So let me just hear a couple of comments. Makes sense, doesn't make sense. Let me hear a couple of comments, and we have some questions to ask you. Just unmute and talk. Make sense?
Yeah, I just mentioned in the chat that
Serious.
it's exactly because I started a new job in October, and I've been like trying to understand my boss's expectations. But anytime I ask her a question, she's like, no, it's up to you. You like, yeah, I'm not micromanaging. It's up to you. But then she'll send me a thing of like, why don't you do this? And I'm like,
wow.
But wait, what are your do you want me to manage it, or do you want to manage it? So this is perfect.
And if you could ask her, and she said, oh, it's only a notion. Then when you come back to her, then you said it was a notion, so I know I could play around with it. Or is it a boulder? Let me know. Or is it some component of this work that's a boulder, maybe not the whole work? How about someone else? A couple more people, just quickly comments. Makes sense, doesn't make sense?
I just started a new job in HR, having come from literally the bottom of the industry, and moving to HR position has been quite moving. And just the relationships with colleagues have changed. So now, whereas we were on the same level, I've now stepped up, a couple of levels up, and, trying to deal with the same issues. I have compassion for these people. I've worked with them. And now I have new directives coming from higher up, right? And them not being clear either. I have a whole bunch of mandates right now. And yeah, go with it. You're going to learn the job. And okay. But what is expected is still not clear. And I will tell them straight out, it is not clear. What are you expecting? And I'm guessing it's finding another way of asking what I think is a specific question, but obviously the message isn't going through. So this is a lot of food for thought here.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's easy to train people in this, so share this with them. And then say, let's just use this language, let's just play with it, so that I can be clear about what you want from me and how much you want me to do it the way you're suggesting, or how much flex do I have in it. Okay, I'd love to hear more, but I'm going to move us because of time. So we have some questions for you to answer. So once again, let's annotate these questions. So I make the intent and intensity of my statements clear. I find it easy to change my position when new data information warrants it. So how would you rate yourself 0 to 10? Thank you, Linda. Thanks for being here. Linda's leaving. Okay. So I make my intent and intensity of my statements clear. No, we don't have no 8, 9s, and 10s, at least as I see them. A lot of hang around 4, 5, 6, 7. I find it easy to change my position when I get new data. A little stronger on that. Some 9s, several 9s and 8s. But there's a range. There's a continuum here. These are areas to look at and to think about. Yeah, we're going to keep moving. So, Yvonne, I'll turn over to you.
Yeah, so This is my favorite key in terms of holding the polarity across all of these things. This idea of sharing your street corner, which is accept the other person's perspective and experiences as true for them, and then hear others' differences as additive, as an addition to the perspective you've already heard. So the reason this is so important, like going with listening as an ally, or even what we just heard Fred summarize in terms of having a stake, having a boulder, having a tombstone. I think we run most into issues when we have those, stake, boulder, tombstone, and we don't share them. And then we continue to try to be in partnership. But really, we're not authentically sharing our intent and intensity. And so it creates that static that we know well in relationships, and we're not really connecting. So sharing your street's corner is, for me, fundamentally important to be able to listen as an ally, and get to partnership, because I've made clear where I'm standing, whether it's a notion and I'm just open to whatever collaboratively, generatively emerges, or whether, no, you know what, this is a non-negotiable piece for me and I want you to understand it and understand why, right? So, this in its simplest form could be, the other day, my partner in life, my husband, he's an engineer, I'll start with that. So he goes, we're moving and I'm in the new home trying to grab something, and he's like, it's opposite the island or something like that. And so I go opposite from where I was standing by the island, and he goes mathematical opposite. Like, what? What the heck is a mathematical opposite? Right? So he's literally going, think mathematically, opposite from this particular angle. That's what's opposite, not from you being on that corner. That's not opposite, that's diagonal. Anyway, we got into that kind of conversation. But it literally, I think because I was thinking about this, Fred, and about this work, I was like, there you go. That's the street corners thing. That's what happens in life. I'm standing at an angle and I'm going, opposite is there for me. And you're saying opposite and you mean over here. And we're not connecting. We are not literally having a conversation. We are not partnering until someone says, wait a second, this is where I'm actually standing. That's what's opposite for me. And it's like, oh, okay, now we can talk, because no, I'm over here. And this is actually really important to me. This perspective and this corner and being able to influence over here is more important to me than over there. Right? That's a conversation. And that's what street corners are. It is advocating for your position, being clear about it, and yet staying open to listen and learn from the other person's corner. It is both advocating for your position and inquiring into the others. Then you're having a conversation. If I'm only advocating, if I'm only being positional, I am not in partnership. Right? Again, because this is on my mind, I felt like that this week. I'm having a really uncomfortable leaning into discomfort type conversation. And part of my insight and reflection is, you know what? Both of us are pretty hard on our boulders. Like we are in position in this interaction. We're trying to lead together, but it's not working because we're holding our boulders. So we need to make these explicit and figure out where to from here, right? That is partnership. So do you share your street corners? Let's go to the next. Why don't we annotate again? I share my street corner with others, and I ask others to share their street corners, right? Just like in that leadership partnership I just mentioned, I'm realizing we need to move beyond ping pong of just repeating our own street corners to listening as an ally to each other and making explicit the intent and intensity of our positions so that we understand fully each other's street corner. And then we can have a conversation. Nice. Right? It's like our other colleague and friend in this space that many of us have read and learned from, Peter Block, would say, no is a beginning of a conversation. Will you marry me? No. More people should say no instead of a rote yes. Will you marry me? No. Okay. Why not? Maybe you have a conversation and maybe you end up, like Fred said, in partnership, married to someone you started out saying no to, right? All right. So again, sort of seeing us clustered at that. I ask others to share the street corner is interesting. So there's a split between 4 and 6. So we'll just average it at 5, right? Half and half. This is difficult when we feel strongly, right? This is not easy work, but this is the work of humanity and partnership. And I share my street corners. Yeah, it's easier for us to share, right? Because we feel passionate about these. So we share our positions likely more than we ask. So thank you for being true to what's so for you in responding to this. This makes sense to me. Fred, anything for you?
I was just reading a comment in chat about what happens when, you know, the person doesn't think
I
it's
just saw it.
a tombstone, but it is. I mean, learning this technology will help facilitate the conversation. So I want to teach people about notion stakes, tombstones, and boulders, so that we can have the conversation. So I can use that language to kind of understand what's under what they're saying and where are they and how they're seeing things, and start practicing that and using that. And sometimes you don't even have to teach the other person; just use the language yourself, and people can start catching on to your intensity about something.
Exactly. I was just going to say in response, Heather, I just call it. If that's what I'm thinking is going on, then I say, hey, here's what I'm thinking. Here's my experience of this conversation. I hear you say this is, you know, an open conversation that we can have. And when you say this in the conversation, or when you said that, it really is occurring to me like, this is firm for you. This is something, this is a hill you will die on, so to speak, to use the tombstone metaphor in another way, right? No is a complete sentence, Stephen. Okay. I love that. Yes, it can be.
So
but when it's not complete, there's somewhere to go.
Our small groups.
Small groups, I think.
One last time, and we'll come back from there and start wrapping this up.
Yeah. So we're going to take 10 minutes, I think. No, it says 12, but I think let's take 10. Thank you. For you to do the same thing you did in the previous, but around the second 2 keys. So your intensity and your intent and intensity, and the conversation we just had about street corners. Your response to what would your interactions in work and life be like, and what actions can you take to enhance these practices? A few more questions here. How will you hold yourself accountable? And how will you get feedback from others? So maybe, it's in chat for you. Grab a screenshot if that works for you. We're going to take a 10-minute breakout. You'll be in new groups. Veronique's going to send you out now. We'll see you back here and be ready to share as we wrap up.
Welcome back.
Welcome, everyone.
Welcome back.
All right. So we're going to ask you this round, just as we move to closure, just to type in chat, as many of you as can, your response to number 2. What are some actions you can take to enhance your practice of these behaviors? So just type in chat, just so we get a sense of what emerged from your conversations. We'll watch them as they come up, and we'll just move to closure. So I'll send it to you, Fred.
Sure. So originally this spring, we were going to do 2 in-person labs, but COVID said no. So now we're looking at the fall. You want to put up the slide? We're looking at the fall. So we're working on dates as we speak, but there can be 2 labs in this fall of this year. One's a human interaction lab, which has a T group, training group of technology, if you know that. But this is a lab that really helps you learn about interpersonal skills. I love the heart. About interpersonal skills and about group process. And at the same time, we'll have a group of people going through that lab. We'll have people going through the developing the organization and personal self lab. This is a lab that I developed many years ago, like in the 80s. I have done it many times all over the world. And it's really an intrapersonal lab We give a lot of stimulus and stimuli from work activities and conversations, but it's really about you growing and developing yourself and saying, who do I want to be? How do I want to be? And people coming out of COVID, I think the timing of it is perfect, as many of us are doing a reassessment of our lives and what we're getting out of it and what do we want to get out of it. So both labs will be run concurrently, so that periodically the two groups will come together and have plenary sessions, and then they'll have separate sessions for the HI lab, which HI really came out of the NTL Institute experience and development, and then the DOPS lab, as we call it for short, which is really about really advanced personal growth and really looking at me and being the me that I want to be, and how am I working my boundaries, how am I making myself be true to myself, etc. Two great labs, and we're hoping that people will consider attending. We're working on dates. We should have dates probably in the next couple of weeks. And with that, Marilyn, I'll turn it over to you.
And just to comment, I love the comments coming in chat. Thank you. Keep them coming. This is amazing to see. Thank you so much. And I am planning to be there for faculty on the Developing the Organization on Personal Self lab.
Well, hi, everyone. This is Marilyn. Thank you so much for joining us and sharing today. We really appreciate your participation and hope you enjoyed the presentation. There were so many takeaways and so much food for thought, both personally and professionally. So on behalf of the center, I'd like to thank Fred and Yabome. It's been an absolute pleasure, and we're truly grateful that they carved out some time to share some of their valuable wisdom and experience with us. So let me take this opportunity to let you know about the next webinar coming up in the series. The final webinar, titled Creating Interaction Safety, will be taking place February 28th, same time, 5:30 to 7 o'clock, and will be hosted and presented by Fred Miller and Judith Katz. So for more information on that webinar and the labs that we were just speaking about, they will be available on our website, concordia.ca/CHRCS. And lastly, I'll be sending a follow-up email along with the slides, articles. There will be an article and link to the recording for tonight's presentation. So once again, thank you so much for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you next time.
Take care, everybody. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Be safe out there. Thank you.